Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. We are on at 4:30 today, Tony, Eastern Time. Are you ready?
Tony Kornheiser, I'm excited because I can get to sleep by 6. That's great.
That's nice. You're going to just work your way back until you're in bed at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Well, that would make it even easier to watch the Australian Open, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's on at about 3 in the morning. I'd be right in the middle of my day at that point. Yeah, welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Eagles escape, the Commanders knock off the Lions, and the Chiefs are back in the AFC title game for the 7th straight year. But we begin today with last night's snow-filled ballyhooed game in Buffalo, where the Bills were fortunate that Baltimore tight end Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion pass with 1:33 to go in the game. Buffalo hung on to win 27-25 and advance to the AFC title game. Wilbon, do you come away feeling like the Bills won this game or like the Ravens gave it away?
Well, Tony, anytime you see a mistake late in the game, that's the thing your eye goes to, and instinctively you think, aha, let's analyze that to death. And we're going to get back there. But, Tony, the Bills didn't make mistakes. And not making mistakes, particularly in January football, when you're at home and you've got Josh Allen, who seems to have removed that element. He used to make mistakes earlier in his career. He seems to have removed that from his big game resume. That's to be credited. That's to be lauded. And so I don't want to sit here and say, oh, the Bills, because they didn't make a mistake and because Baltimore clearly did, that Baltimore gave it away. Yes, there's an element of that, Tony. I feel bad for Mark Andrews, a guy who's a terrific, terrific tight end and has been that for 6 or 7 years for the Baltimore Ravens. But he had the fumble early. He had the drop late when they're going to tie the game. Although Josh Allen would have had a minute and a half left and I think 2 timeouts. So it wasn't like the game was over at that point. But, man, I have a hard time just sort of giving Buffalo a backhanded compliment as well as the Bills played in that game.
Well, I'm going to answer the question by taking both sides of the issue. Buffalo won the game, but they won the game because Baltimore gave them a chance to win the game, and they took advantage of that opportunity, and that's how they won the game. You were not on the show on Friday. I said on the show on Friday that I did not think that Buffalo could stop Baltimore's rushing attack. I just didn't think so. And the only way I saw Buffalo winning the game was if Baltimore made mistakes, like interceptions, like fumbles. And in fact, Lamar Jackson had a fumble and an interception in the first half, and Mark Andrews, who was a Pro Bowl tight end, doesn't ever drop the ball, doesn't ever fumble, but he did. He fumbled and he dropped the ball. I also thought that maybe Buffalo could win if they had a lead and maintained it, and that removed the opportunity for Baltimore to slowly score because they were going to rush the ball. But in fact, even though that happened, Lamar Jackson was perfect on the last tying drive.
He was.
So that to me is not really a factor. I thought, Mike, that differently than the other games that were played over the weekend, I thought this was not between two teams, but between two quarterbacks, between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And I thought that whoever won would be celebrated and whoever lost would be pilloried. And I'm not going to slam Lamar Jackson because he was great in the second half.
He was.
He was absolutely great in the second half. But it is also true, Mike, that he's had 8 playoff games, and in 4 of them, in half of them, he's had at least 2 turnovers. That's not good. Josh Allen was very efficient, but very quiet. I don't think he threw the ball more than 5 yards in the air most of the time because they wanted to hold the ball and kill the clock, and they did.
Conservative.
Their game plan worked out.
Real quickly, I talked to you about this on your podcast this morning. Baltimore has been an easy team for a lot of reasons I won't get into for me to root for in these recent years. But, Tony, I'm on the verge of getting tired of them. Like, come out and play from the opening tip with the purpose and conviction that you play late in the games, in these playoffs games, when you're always behind. Where was that? Where was that? You know, people use the phrase hair on fire. Well, damn it, don't wait until the fourth quarter, the last drive of the game. Play with that conviction earlier. That bothered me. But, you know, man, feel bad. I feel
Mike,
bad for
I'll give you a great statistic. This is something I heard today. Baltimore has won 78 games in the last 7 years. They're the only team in the NFL to win that many over that period of time and not make a Super Bowl. The only one. And why did Harbaugh go for 2 early? Why did he do that?
Didn't need to.
I wouldn't have done that.
Didn't need to go for 2. Put the stupid sheet down and use some common sense. You're not playing to tie the game. You want to win the game at the end. You think there's going to be no more scoring with 12 minutes left? Oh, we could go on about that game forever. But Sunday's early game looked to be over before it was. Saquon Barkley ran away from the Rams defense in snowy Philly to put the Eagles up 13 with less than 5 to go. But the Rams responded quickly with a touchdown, and then that long pass to Puka Nacua that put them into position to win before that drive fell apart in the final minute.
Yeah.
Tone, how do you feel about the Eagles following the win the way they won?
Okay, so honestly, as someone who lives in Washington, D.C., I think that gives a lot of hope to the Washington football team. I'm not knocking the Eagles. They're big and they're strong. That tush-push thing that they do, they can gain a yard whenever and wherever they need to gain a yard. They can do that. But they had just hit their 3rd home run ball. Jalen Hurts had run 44 yards for a touchdown. Saquon Barkley had run 62 for a touchdown. Then he runs 76 for a touchdown. That game's over, except it's not over. They're up 13 points with 4.5 to go. And then suddenly, here are the Rams zip, zip, zip down the field, 70 yards, 10 plays, 148. Then they hold the Eagles to 3 and out. Then they go 60 yards in 10 plays. They're on the Philadelphia 22, and they can win. I know they didn't win, but they can win. But if you step back a little bit, you ask yourself, what are the Eagles doing? Fly, Eagles, fly. Really? They did not. They're a good team. They won 14 out of 15, something like that. But they did not look invincible at the end.
Tony, I'm torn about this. I agree with everything that you just said and that sort of cautionary note you sounded at the end of that sentence. But, Tony, I'm wondering if the Eagles are just one of those teams, and there are these teams occasionally in every sport, that know exactly what to do that day against that opponent, and only that.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
So they didn't throw the ball down the field because they didn't have to, but if they have to against the Commanders, maybe they will. So I'm wondering that I don't really know how to feel about the Eagles. The 14 of the 15 says to me, wait a minute, don't be too critical about the way they win because they
That's
win.
fair.
But I'm cautionary like you about this too.
That's fair.
I wonder, wait a minute, the Eagles should be able to crush people. By the way, the running back and the decline of the running back, can we stop that? Saquon Barkley, nothing in decline about him.
So to that point, you always talk about the MVP in terms of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and you always mention Sam Darnold early on. And for weeks now, I've been telling you it's Saquon Barkley. Like I would vote for him. We move on. In the one true upset of the weekend, Washington beat Detroit 45-31, knocking off the top seed in the NFC. Washington won the turnover battle 5-0. Their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, was significantly more effective than Jared Goff, who had 3 interceptions and a fumble. Wilbon, what did this result say to you?
Woo, Tony, there's so many things. By the way, we got some breaking news. I mean, Ben Johnson, the Lions' estimable offensive coordinator, who called a lot of interesting and creative plays in that game, including a wide receiver option play I wouldn't have called, is apparently in the final stages of working out a contract with my Chicago Bears. That, of course,
well, you wanted
makes
him.
me.
You wanted him. He's the guy you've been talking about.
Although I like Cliff Kingsbury too, and now I'd like Ron Rivera to be the defensive coordinator. But that's enough for another time. Tony, what does this result say to me? My goodness, Washington, the turnaround, and you and I talk about this every day. We talked about it on the phone in live time when it was going on. The turnaround is stunning. I hesitate to say complete because teams always talk about winning the ultimate game. If they get to the Super Bowl, it's complete. It's almost complete now. When you have a rookie quarterback play with that kind of poise, that kind of calm, it's just sort of stunning to sit there and watch it. I feel bad for Detroit, Tone, because I know what a crusade this was for Michigan, for Greater Detroit, for the Lions franchise. And they had a lot of people hurt. And they didn't make that excuse, but I can't talk about this game without mentioning 18 guys on that Lions squad were on injured reserve. So, but Washington, I mean, a standing ovation. Standing ovation.
Yeah. I'll just mention the Detroit thing I wanted to mention very quickly. Dan Campbell in the postgame was crying. He was literally crying.
Yes.
And he said, it's my fault. Everybody's got to love this guy. Everybody's got to want to play for a guy like that who takes that upon himself personally. In terms of Washington, I am surprised. You know this. I did not think they were going to win this game. And their turnaround is, in fact, amazing. And it is built on two things. It's built on an ownership change and the hiring of smart people within the last 12 months who have done this. They went from 4-13. I think they're 14-5 now, which is just amazing. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there are only 4 teams left to go to the Super Bowl. And if Washington were to win the Super Bowl, then in my entire lifetime, the only thing comparable to this would be the 1969 Amazing Mets, who won the World Series after finishing 9th in a 10-team league the year before and had never finished higher than next to last in all of their existence. So it would be comparable to that. The Washington team, they go on 4th down all the time. They make it 81% of the time. Jaden Daniels has unbelievable poise, and he doesn't turn the ball over. You look at them and you just say to yourself, I know you say this and I say this, Dan Snyder, really, what are you thinking? Because this is so clear that it is ownership change. That's what's going on here. It's ownership change, right? I mean, they put 31 points on the number 1 seed in the first half.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, let's point that out. And one other thing real quickly. Tony, it shows you, and analytics can't account for this, the confidence a team derives from a great player. It isn't always a quarterback. In years and decades past, it used to be the running back. It could be a great linebacker, Lawrence Taylor, Dick Butkus. It could be that. But the confidence you derive and you play with when you have a great player, in this case of Washington, the quarterback, my goodness.
Let's take a break. Coming up, are the Texans right to be upset by the officiating in their loss to the Chiefs?
And how surprising would it be if Notre Dame were to knock off Ohio State tonight?
Your division, 0-3 and 11.
Is your fiance?
It's time to find out what's stuck in the craw of the commoners in mail time. Here's the first one. Are the Texans right to be upset by the officiating in their loss to the Chiefs?
Yeah, probably they are, Tony. And I don't want to say they would have won the game if these penalties hadn't been called. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the new Tom Brady. If you breathe on him, they're going to call a penalty. That penalty is just stupid. It's wrong. It's wrong. It infuriated me yesterday nearly as much as the Big Ten officials throwing my man out of the Northwestern game. Our point guard who was having the game of his career, and the Big Ten officials just hosed us. They got friendly fire causing as much damage to each other and none to Patrick Mahomes. These are not penalties. The league needs to be better than that. He doesn't need the help. He's the best player in the league. Yes, Houston's upset. Yes, Houston deserves to be upset.
Okay. You're right in everything you say, and he is the new golden boy quarterback, and he gets all these calls. And I would tell you it's well-deserved, as it was with Tom Brady. If Houston wants to win the game, score more points or stop them on the next series and stop complaining about this. Kansas City is a championship team. Look at Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce did nothing all year. In a playoff game, he just had his best game of the year. Speaking of Travis Kelce, I think that was Caitlin Clark next to Taylor Swift. She's going to get great tickets from now on. I mean, I was saying, that looks like, in my own house, I'm talking to nobody saying, that looks like Caitlin Clark. But, the thing is, they got 10 points out of that in a game that they won by 9. I understand the complaint, but you're out on the field. Do better.
Tony,
do better.
Tony,
stop them.
They're out on the field. They can't do better if better is tackling the quarterback, which is the objective in the damn game, and the Zebras are giving it the 15 yards. Stop it. It's awful. It's awful.
Would it be a surprise to you if Notre Dame beat Ohio State tonight?
Yeah, it would be. But I don't want to act like everybody in America that thinks that Ohio State's going to trash Notre Dame. This is college sports. This ain't the NBA playoffs or the NHL playoffs or Major League Baseball playoffs. You don't get 7 games where the superior team wins a great percentage of the time. I think that Ohio State's a superior team. But Notre Dame, they're big and tough now, bigger and tougher and stronger than they've been in recent years. They got a chance here. I mean, you know, you and I have watched things like Villanova beat Georgetown in person. I'm not willing to just go out there and say this is a lock. Yes, I believe Ohio State is favored and a healthy favorite, if that, but I'm not going to the betting window. I'm not.
Yeah, I love Notre Dame and I root for Notre Dame. But if Ohio State plays at its best, that's going to be too good for Notre Dame. Ohio State, the way they went through Oregon, number 1 in the country, undefeated, they killed them. They went through Tennessee at one point, number 4 in the country, they killed them. Notre Dame doesn't have that kind of win on its resume. A dominating win over a really good team without some excuse or some suspect reason to do that. So, yes, I'm going to be surprised. You know what thrills me about this, Mike? What thrills me is we get to see, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 most iconic college football helmets. We get the Notre Dame Golden Dome helmet. We get the gray Ohio State with the Buckeye stuff on the sides of the helmet. The third for me is Michigan. But these 2 are in the top 2,
if they
top
wear
3
them,
for me. Enough female.
They may come out wearing black because that's what players now want in every program.
No,
Tony,
no, that would be terrible.
You can't trust them.
Terrible.
The ADs ought to mandate the helmets be worn.
No. Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Dodgers add even more talent to their championship team.
And your boy Novak Djokovic gets set to face Carlos Alcaraz in the wee hours Tuesday morning when only you will be awake. Did you see the Big Ten officials hose Northwestern?
Happy time, people. Happy 25th birthday, Tyler Hero. Miami Heat guard was the 13th overall pick in the 2019 draft after his one-and-done season at Kentucky. A few years ago, Hero was rumored to be available for trade as the Heat coalesced around Jimmy Butler. Now it's Butler who is likely to be traded, and Hero figures to become a centerpiece on the Heat. Hero was the NBA's 6th man of the year in 2022. So far this season, he's scoring at a career-best average of 24 points on 47.8% shooting. He gets 5.7 rebounds a game, gives out 5 assists. The Heat are essentially a 500 team now, awaiting the resolution of Butler's employment.
Tony, you know what? You know Jimmy Butler has been my favorite player in the league different seasons in recent history. But I'm going to tell you, he never averaged 24 points a game. Got close, 23-9, but never averaged 24 a game. Tyler Hero, better player than I thought and getting better.
Happy anniversary, Tom Brady. On this day 6 years ago, the Patriots beat the Chiefs in overtime in the AFC Championship game. The overtime was played under the old rules, and Brady never let Patrick Mahomes touch the ball. Brady went straight down the field for a 37-31 win. Brady threw for 348 yards and 1 touchdown. Mahomes threw for 295 and 3. The 2 aspiring GOATs went 3-3 against each other, but Brady won both their playoff matchups. This game was the first of what will now be 7 consecutive AFC Championship game appearances for Mahomes. And it was the last of Brady's 8 straight. New England won the Super Bowl that year over the Rams, 13-3.
And Tony, with health, good health, and great management that can keep a team together, particularly a defense and an offensive line, wow. I mean, Mahomes can go a ways, right? I mean, what is he, 28, 29? He's got some time to catch Brady, which is unthinkable. It sounds insane to say that out loud.
Happy trails to 2 more spots on the Dodgers pitching staff. Friday night, the defending champions landed 23-year-old Japanese phenom Roki Sasaki. Then on Sunday, LA signed top lefty reliever Tanner Scott, who put up an ERA of 1.75 across 72 appearances for the Marlins and Padres last season. The contract for Scott is 4 years, $72 million with $21 million deferred. Jeff Passan says the Dodgers' upcoming payroll now sits at $375 million, nearly $70 million more than the next highest team, the Phillies. I see people complaining that it's unfair what the Dodgers are doing, signing all these players. It's not unfair. It's within the rules. They'll pay another $120 million or so in luxury tax. So stop.
Yeah, it's fans of probably mostly the Red Sox and Cubs that are doing a lot of that whining because they thought they might be able to get at least one, if not both, of those players, Tony. Mark Walter and the Dodgers. They're spending it, but they spend it wisely. They don't get bums. They get the great players, and they win.
Let's go to the big finish if we could. Former Saints coach Dennis Allen, reportedly the leading candidate to become your Bears defensive coordinator. Is that okay with you? Good choice?
He's done that. He's been a head coach. I want Ron Rivera, but I understand. Right fielder Anthony Santander left the O's for the Blue Jays. Is that significant?
Yeah, he had 44 home runs last year and 102 RBI. Yeah. Dante DiVincenzo with the Timberwolves out indefinitely with a sprained left big toe. Is that significant?
Yes, they went to the starting lineup, just started to play better, got off to a real slow start, was just rounding into form. Now, LeBron says, quote, "We have to play close to perfect basketball. We don't have a choice. That's the way our team is constructed," close quote. Tony, you know what that sounds like to me?
Yeah, it sounds like to you that he wants to go to another team. Last one. Djokovic and Alcaraz meet in an Aussie Open final, quarterfinal rather, 4:30 a.m. I'm going to watch. Who you got?
I got a pillow, but it's time for Alcaraz to beat back the old man. It's time.
We're out of time, and we will try to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're back on at our regular time tomorrow, knuckleheads. And now, here is College Game Day.